strategized expansion approach while substituting names and enhancing engagement naturally. Jake Miller squeezed out his mop for what felt like the 1000th time that day, watching dirty water swell into the bucket. His back ached. His knees hurt. But he kept working because that's what you did when you were human in the Galactic Empire. You worked, kept your head down, and tried not to think about how different life used to be. The obsidian floors of the Valdrian Imperial Palace stretched out before him like a black mirror. He could see his own tired reflection staring back, a 32-year-old guy from Houston who once fixed air conditioning units and now cleaned floors for aliens who wouldn't even look at him. Around him, the Festival of Ascension was in full swing. Thousands of aliens from across the galaxy filled the massive throne room. There were reptilian warriors standing 12 feet tall with scales that gleamed like polished metal. Floating beings made of pure energy drifted past, their light casting rainbow shadows on the walls. Crystalline creatures that looked like walking gemstones clinked and chimed as they moved. Some aliens had 4 arms, some had tentacles, some didn't even have bodies that made sense to human eyes. And not one of them noticed Jake. That was fine by him. 3 years ago, when Earth fell, humanity learned a hard lesson about being noticed by powerful aliens. Better to be invisible. Better to be forgotten. Jake pushed his mop toward the edges of the crowd, trying to clean without getting stepped on. Before the conquest, he'd been good with his hands. Give him a broken HVAC system or a busted electrical panel, and he could figure it out. He understood how things worked, how pieces fit together, how to fix what was broken. Now he used those same hands to push a mop. Behold! The voice hit like a thunderclap, so loud Jake nearly dropped his mop. Emperor Thane rose from his throne at the far end of the hall. The Emperor looked like a massive praying mantis crossed with a beetle, standing 20 feet tall with 4 segmented arms and a head crowned with curved horns. His exoskeleton was deep purple and black, polished until it shone. Today, Emperor Thane announced, spreading all 4 arms wide, the High Oracle will reveal who among us shall save the Empire from the Void Plague. The crowd went absolutely silent. Jake had heard whispers about the Void Plague from other human workers. Entire solar systems were vanishing. Not exploding. Not dying. Just disappearing. Like reality itself was being erased. The Empire's scientists couldn't stop it. Their weapons couldn't fight it. Even their gods seemed helpless against it. Jake kept mopping, but slower now, listening. A small hand tugged on his sleeve. He looked down to find a little girl, maybe 9 or 10 years old, with brown pigtails and a cleaning smock 3 sizes too big for her. Lily, the daughter of another human servant. She looked up at Jake with wide, hopeful eyes. "Mr. Jake," she whispered, barely audible over the crowd. Do you think servants could be heroes too? Like in the old Earth stories?" Jake's heart twisted. Kids shouldn't have to wonder if they mattered. He started to answer, to tell her something comforting, when Emperor Thane's laughter boomed across the hall. The Emperor had heard her. His compound eyes had somehow picked out one tiny human voice among thousands. "Servants can't be heroes, child," Emperor Thane said, his mandibles clicking with amusement. "They lack the strength. They lack the breeding. And most importantly," he paused for effect, "they lack the worth." The alien crowd erupted in laughter. Not cruel, exactly. More like you'd laugh at a cat trying to do math. Like the very idea was absurd. Jake pulled Lily close, protective. "Keep your head down," he whispered. "Don't let them see you cry." She nodded against his side, and Jake felt her little shoulders shaking. The laughter died down as the High Oracle floated forward. She was ancient, nobody knew exactly how old. Her body was pure light wrapped in ceremonial robes that seemed to be made from solidified starlight. She held a stone in her glowing hands, and even from across the massive hall, Jake could see symbols glowing on its surface. The Prophecy Stone. Written by the First Ones, the mysterious civilization that built half the ancient technology in the galaxy before vanishing millions of years ago. Every alien in the room held their breath. Even Emperor Thane leaned forward on his throne. This was it. The prophecy would name the greatest warrior, the mightiest champion, the being destined to save them all. The oracle's voice wasn't loud, but somehow Jake heard every word clearly, like she was speaking directly inside his head. "The named one who shall retrieve the cosmic key and seal the void," she said slowly, "is Jake of Terra, who cleans the halls of power." For a moment, one perfect, frozen moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Jake's mop slipped from his hands and clattered on the obsidian floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the silent hall. Every single alien eye turned to look at him. Then the chaos began. Shouting. Disbelief. Outrage. Laughter. The crowd surged with reaction, and Jake stood frozen in the middle of it all, a human janitor who'd just been named the galaxy's only hope. Lily looked up at him, her eyes huge. Mr. Jake. He had no idea what to say. Strategized engaging narrative expansion balancing human resilience with YouTube compliance requirements. This is impossible. Lord Vex slammed his clawed fist against the armrest of his seat, and the metal crumpled like paper. He was the Empire's greatest living warrior, a creature that had conquered 17 worlds single-handedly. Right now, he looked ready to conquer an 18th one out of pure frustration. The prophecy must be broken. The High Oracle simply floated there, calm as ever. The prophecy has never been wrong in 10,000 years. Jake stood in the center of the throne room with armed guards surrounding him. His heart was hammering so hard he could hear it in his ears. Thousands of alien faces stared at him with everything from shock to disgust to outright hatred. Some were laughing. Some looked offended, like the prophecy had personally insulted them. Emperor Thane's mandibles clicked together rapidly. Jake had learned that meant the Emperor was furious. I will not send a janitor to save the Galactic Empire. This is madness. Your Majesty, the Oracle said quietly, the first ones have spoken. The Emperor went so still that Jake wondered if he'd somehow turned to stone. Then, slowly, Thane leaned forward. When he spoke, his voice was cold enough to freeze nitrogen. Very well. Jake of Terra, you will journey to the tomb of the first ones in the dead zone. You will retrieve the cosmic key. You will save us all. He paused, and Jake knew something terrible was coming. But understand this, if you fail, every human in the Empire will be executed. All 300,000 of them. Jake heard gasping from the servant areas. Lily's mother was back there somewhere. So were dozens of other humans who worked in the palace. And if I refuse to go? Jake asked. His voice came out steadier than he felt. Then I will assume you have failed before even trying. The result will be the same. It wasn't really a choice at all. Jake thought about his wife, Beth, working in the mining colonies 3 systems away. He thought about his kid brother Danny, assigned to some farming planet Jake couldn't even pronounce. He thought about all the humans scattered across the galaxy, just trying to survive. Okay, Jake said. I'll go. He expected the Emperor to at least look satisfied, but Thane just looked more irritated. Lady Kira and Luminarch will accompany you. They will ensure you reach your destination. 2 figures stepped forward from the crowd. Lady Kira was 7 feet of pure predator. Her scales were metallic silver, catching the light like chrome. Her amber eyes had vertical pupils that contracted when she looked at Jake, like a cat spotting a particularly unimpressive mouse. She wore armor that probably cost more than Earth's entire GDP, and carried a plasma blade that hummed with barely contained energy. She looked at Jake like he was something stuck to the bottom of her boot. Luminarch was harder to describe. He, or she, or they, Jake honestly couldn't tell, was made of pure energy barely contained in a humanoid shape. Light pulsed through Luminarch's form in waves of blue and gold. No face, exactly, but Jake got the distinct impression Luminarch was just as unimpressed. Try not to die immediately, Kira said, her voice like gravel. I'd prefer to get this humiliation over with quickly. They didn't give Jake any armor. No weapons. No training. A functionary tossed him his toolkit, the battered plastic box he used for fixing broken equipment around the palace. That was it. That was everything he got to save the galaxy. On the Imperial flagship heading toward the dead zone, Jake learned exactly where he ranked. Kira got a luxury suite with its own training room. Luminarch got some kind of meditation chamber. Jake got a storage closet next to the engine room. Literally a closet. There was barely enough room to lie down, and the engine noise made the walls vibrate constantly. Jake didn't sleep. Couldn't sleep. Instead, he spent every waking moment in the ship's database, reading everything he could find about the first ones. Most of it was useless, religious texts about their greatness, warrior legends about heroes who tried to reach their tombs and failed, prophecies that didn't make sense. But Jake had always been good at finding the useful stuff buried in the junk. That's what maintenance work taught you. So he dug deeper, searching through technical archives that probably hadn't been opened in centuries. And he found something. Hidden beneath all the mythology were actual blueprints. Engineering schematics. The first ones hadn't just been mysterious godlike beings. They'd been builders. Engineers. The tomb of the first ones wasn't just some mystical temple. It was a machine. A really, really complicated machine that nobody had understood for millions of years. Every warrior who tried to break into it had failed because they tried to fight their way in. But what if that wasn't the point? What if you weren't supposed to fight it? Jake zoomed in on one schematic, his maintenance engineer brain finally finding something familiar. That looked like a power distribution system. And that looked like a cooling mechanism. And those symbols, he'd seen similar patterns in the palace's ancient systems, the ones he'd learned to fix because nobody else bothered. Oh man, Jake whispered to himself in his tiny closet. This is going to be either the smartest thing I've ever figured out or the dumbest way I've ever died. 3 days later, they arrived at the dead zone. Through the viewport, Jake could see the tomb floating in space, a massive structure the size of a moon. Around it floated the wreckage of thousands of ships. All those warriors, all those heroes, all those mighty champions. All dead. Kira stood beside him, staring at the wreckage. Any last words, human? Jake adjusted his grip on his toolkit. Yeah. Let's go fix this thing. Strategized expanding narrative with engaging dialogue and human-centered tension. The shuttle touched down on the tomb's landing platform with a metallic groan. Through the windows, Jake could see debris everywhere, pieces of ships, broken weapons, even what looked like bones from species he didn't recognize. This place was a graveyard. Stay behind me, Kira ordered, her plasma blade already ignited. I'll handle the entrance. The entrance was a massive circular door, maybe 50 feet across, covered in glowing symbols that pulsed with soft blue light. Kira approached it like she approached everything, with violence and confidence. She swung her blade at the door's center. Sparks flew, but the door didn't even scratch. Luminarch tried next, firing concentrated energy beams that could melt through starship hulls. The beams hit the door and just absorbed. Disappeared. Nothing. This is ridiculous, Kira snarled, hitting it again and again. Each strike did absolutely nothing. Jake stood back, watching. The symbols weren't random decoration. They formed a pattern, repeating in a specific sequence. He'd seen something similar before, back on Earth, when he was fixing the electrical system in an old office building. The building had this ancient circuit breaker box with a weird reset sequence. It's not locked, Jake said, stepping forward. What? Kira spun toward him, breathing hard from her attempts. It's not locked. It's more like, turned off. Safety protocol. Jake pulled out his multi-tool and approached the door. His hands were shaking, but he focused on the symbols. Press this one, then that one, skip 2, press 3 together. It was like resetting a tripped breaker, just on a cosmic scale. The door shuddered. Then, with a deep grinding sound that Jake felt in his bones, it split open. Kira stared at him. Luminarch's light pulsed in what might have been surprise. Lucky guess, Kira muttered, but she sounded less certain now. Inside was worse. The corridor ahead was lined with thousands of weapon emplacements, cannons, laser turrets, things Jake didn't even have names for. All of them tracked movement with quiet, precise clicks. Finally, Kira said. Something I can fight. Wait, Jake started, but Kira was already charging forward. The weapons opened fire instantly. Energy bolts filled the corridor like a light show from hell. Kira dodged, blocked with her blade, moved faster than Jake thought possible. But there were too many. A blast caught her shoulder, spinning her around. She barely made it back to the entrance, smoking and cursing. It's a security system, Jake said, examining the walls while Kira caught her breath. The more aggressive you are, the more it responds. Look, every time you attacked, more weapons activated. Then how do we pass? Luminarch asked, their voice like wind chimes. Jake was already running his hands along the wall, looking for something specific. Every security system had one. Every machine had one. A maintenance access panel. Something for technicians to use when the system needed repairs. There. Hidden behind what looked like decorative plating, he found it. The panel was locked with another symbol sequence, but Jake's brain was starting to understand the pattern now. It took him 15 minutes, but he cracked it. Inside were controls that looked alien but functioned like any other security system. Motion sensors, threat assessment, automated response protocols. Jake started flipping switches and rerouting connections, following the logic of the machine. If this does that, and that triggers this, then shutting down this should. The weapons powered down with a descending whine. The corridor went dark and silent. Interesting, Luminarch said quietly. The second chamber was filled with floating holographic equations, alien mathematics that made Jake's head hurt just looking at them. Kira and Luminarch stood there, completely lost. They were warriors. This wasn't their world. But it was Jake's. Kind of. He sat down on the floor and really looked at the equations. They weren't just random math. They were asking a question. Do you understand how things work, or do you only know how to break them? 3 hours. That's how long it took Jake to work through the logic. His back ached from sitting on the cold floor. His eyes burned. But he recognized the patterns eventually. They were diagnostic sequences, like the ones he'd run 1,000 times checking if systems were working correctly. When he input the final answer, the holograms vanished and a door opened. How did you? Kira started. I fixed alien tech for 3 years, Jake said, standing up and stretching. You learn to read their systems or you don't eat. The third chamber was smaller. Just a pedestal in the center with a single button. Above it, words glowed in a language Jake somehow understood. Press only if you are worthy. Kira approached it with absolute confidence. She was worthy. She'd conquered worlds. She'd defeated legendary warriors. She reached out and pressed the button. The room exploded with visions. Jake saw Kira fall to her knees, screaming. Around her, ghostly images appeared, her ancestors looking down at her with disappointment, her clan rejecting her, everything she'd ever fought for crumbling to dust. Her greatest fear made real. She couldn't move. Couldn't even reach up to press the button again. Luminarch tried next. The moment their energiform touched the button, they dimmed almost to nothing. Jake saw the visions, absolute darkness, the end of all light, oblivion itself. Luminarch pulled back, shaking. Jake stared at the button. He knew what it would show him. But the door wouldn't open unless someone passed the test. He pressed it. The room filled with earth. But earth burning. Cities crumbling. And there, in perfect, horrible detail, every human in the Empire being executed. Lily and her mother. Beth in the mining colony. Danny on his farming world. 300,000 people dying because Jake Miller, maintenance guy from Houston, wasn't good enough. Tears ran down Jake's face. His whole body shook. The fear was crushing, overwhelming, real enough to touch. But he didn't pull his hand away. I'm terrified, he whispered. I'm more scared than I've ever been in my life. But being scared doesn't mean I quit. It just means this matters. The vision stopped. The room brightened. The button glowed green. A door opened ahead, revealing stairs leading down. Kira looked at Jake differently now. You're stronger than you look, human. Jake wiped his eyes. I'm not strong. I'm just too stubborn to give up. Orchestrated engaging narrative expansion balancing action, problem solving, and YouTube-friendly storytelling. The stairs descended for what felt like miles. Jake's legs burned by the time they reached the bottom, but Kira and Luminarch didn't even seem winded. Figures. Then they entered the final chamber, and Jake forgot all about his tired legs. The room was massive, easily the size of a football stadium. The walls were covered in technology that still glowed and hummed after millions of years. Conduits ran everywhere like veins, pulsing with soft light. And there, in the center of it all on a raised platform, sat the cosmic key. It was beautiful. Silver and crystal, about the size of a basketball, hovering above its pedestal and radiating light that made Jake's eyes water. He could feel the power coming off it, like standing next to a running jet engine. Finally, Kira breathed. She started running toward it. Wait! Jake shouted, but it was too late. The moment Kira's foot hit the platform, the sentinel materialized. It rose from the floor itself, a construct of metal and living energy, easily 30 feet tall. It had no face, just a smooth head with a single glowing eye. Its body was covered in armor plating that shifted and rearranged itself. It attacked without warning. Kira barely got her blade up in time. The sentinel's fist slammed into her guard and sent her flying across the room. She hit a wall hard enough to crack it. Luminarch fired energy beams. The sentinel's armor absorbed every shot, then fired the same energy right back. Luminarch had to dive aside to avoid their own attack. Jake watched from the doorway, his heart racing. Kira got back up and attacked again, moving faster, trying different techniques. The sentinel blocked everything. Worse, it was learning. Every move Kira made, every attack pattern Luminarch tried, the sentinel adapted and countered it. It's getting stronger. Luminarch called out. Every time we attack, it learns. Jake's brain was working overtime. This didn't make sense. Why would the first ones create a guardian that became unbeatable the more you fought it? Unless you weren't supposed to fight it at all. Jake looked around the chamber with new eyes. Really looked. The technology everywhere wasn't decorative. It was functional. Power conduits, cooling systems, data lines, This whole room was one giant machine, and the cosmic key was plugged into the heart of it. "Stop fighting!" Jake yelled. "What?" Kira ducked under a massive punch. "Stop attacking it. That's not what it wants." But Kira and Luminarch were too busy staying alive to listen. Fine. Jake would have to figure this out himself. He circled around the edge of the room, staying low, keeping his toolkit close. The sentinel tracked him with its eye but didn't attack. It was too focused on the two warriors who kept hitting it. Jake reached the platform and examined the key's connection to the pedestal. Just as he thought, it wasn't sitting there. It was hardwired into the entire tomb's systems through dozens of crystalline cables. Yank it out, and the whole structure would probably explode. That's what killed all those other warriors. They tried to take it by force. The first ones weren't warriors. The more Jake thought about it, the more obvious it became. They built things. They maintained reality itself. They were engineers, caretakers, technicians on a cosmic scale. This wasn't a warrior's trial. It was a maintenance exam. Jake stood up and walked toward the sentinel. "Hey, I'm talking to you." The sentinel's head swiveled toward him. Kira and Luminarch froze, expecting Jake to get crushed. "I'm not here to fight," Jake said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I'm here to properly disconnect the key. That's what you're protecting, right? You don't want someone yanking it out and breaking everything." The sentinel went completely still. Jake pulled out his multitool. "I'm a maintenance technician. I understand systems. I fix things instead of breaking them. That's what the first ones wanted, isn't it? Someone who gets it." The sentinel's single eye focused on Jake. Then it spoke, the first words it had said, in a voice like grinding gears, "Identify your purpose." "I maintain systems," Jake said simply. "I serve. I keep things running. That's what I do." The eye pulsed brighter. "You understand." And just like that, the sentinel powered down. It didn't disappear, just froze in place like a statue. Kira stared. "How did you?" "Later," Jake said. He was already examining the key's connections, and what he saw made his hands sweat. This was delicate work. One wrong move and boom, no more tomb, no more them, probably no more several solar systems. He spent the next hour carefully disconnecting each cable, one at a time. He had to trace each one to figure out what it controlled. Power supply here, reroute that first. Backup system there, need to activate secondary before disconnecting primary. Data stream here, can't interrupt that until the buffer is empty. It was like defusing a bomb while also performing surgery while also debugging computer code. Jake's hands shook. Sweat dripped into his eyes. But he'd spent 3 years learning alien systems, figuring out how things connected, understanding the logic behind the engineering. Finally, the last cable disconnected. The key lifted free from the pedestal, and instead of exploding, it just floated into Jake's hands. It felt warm. Alive. And it got brighter the moment he touched it, like it recognized him. "The first ones knew," Jake whispered. "They knew that someday, someone who understood maintenance, someone who valued fixing over fighting, would be needed. So they built this test." Kira walked up beside him, her armor scorched and dented. "I owe you an apology, Jake. You're not just some janitor." "I am a janitor," Jake said with a tired smile. "But apparently that's exactly what the galaxy needed." They rushed back to the shuttle. Jake held the cosmic key carefully, feeling its power pulse against his chest. They'd done it. Against all odds, the human maintenance guy had actually done it. Then Luminarch checked the ship's communications. "Jake," they said quietly. "There's a message from the Empire." Jake's stomach dropped. "What does it say?" "Emperor Thane didn't believe you would succeed. He's already issued the execution orders. Fleets are moving toward Earth and all human colonies. We have less than 18 hours. The cosmic key flared brighter in Jake's hands, responding to his sudden anger and fear. They'd won. They'd passed every test. And it still might not be enough to save anyone. "Then we better fly fast," Jake said. Orchestrated narrative expansion with character continuity and engagement strategy. The Imperial flagship burst out of hyperspace with alarms blaring. Through the viewport, Jake could see the palace, and surrounding it, hundreds of warships. The execution fleet was already assembled. "We're too late," Kira said, her voice tight. "No," Jake said, gripping the cosmic key. "We're exactly on time. Get me to that arena. Now." The palace arena was packed with tens of thousands of aliens. In the center, surrounded by armed guards, 3,000 humans knelt in chains. Jake spotted Lily and her mother near the front. His heart clenched. These were just the humans from the capital. Across the galaxy, execution fleets were already moving toward Earth, toward Beth, toward Danny, toward everyone. Emperor Thane sat on his throne, positioned so every camera in the Empire could capture him. This was being broadcast everywhere, a lesson to every conquered species about knowing their place. Let this be clear to all who serve the Empire, Thane's voice boomed. Obedience is survival. Defiance is death. Humans dared to matter, and now? Stop. Jake's voice cut through the arena as he ran through the entrance. The cosmic key blazed in his hands, lighting up the entire space. Kira and Luminarch flanked him, both looking ready for a fight. The arena went dead silent. Every eye turned toward them. Emperor Thane's mandibles clicked rapidly. Impossible. Jake walked forward, and the crowd parted before him. He climbed the stairs to the throne platform, holding the key high so everyone could see. I did what you asked. I went to the tomb. I passed the tests. I got the key. The Emperor recovered quickly. Then give it to me, Janitor, and perhaps I'll spare some of your kind. Perhaps. Jake stopped walking. No. That one word echoed through the arena. Humans gasped. Aliens looked shocked. Nobody told Emperor Thane no. I studied this thing on the way back, Jake continued. The cosmic key isn't just a weapon or a tool. It has rules built into it by the first ones. It can only be wielded by someone who serves without seeking power. That's the exact wording in the ancient texts. Jake looked directly at the Emperor. That's not you. That's why the prophecy couldn't name you. You rule through fear and power. The key would never accept you. The Emperor stood slowly. You dare. The first ones built the key specifically so people like you couldn't use it, Jake said. They knew that real strength isn't about domination. It's about service. About fixing things instead of breaking them. Guards. Emperor Thane roared. Kill him. The guards moved forward, weapons raised. But then Lady Kira stepped between them and Jake, her plasma blade ignited. No, she said firmly. The prophecy has been fulfilled. To reject the named one is to reject the first ones themselves. I stand with the human, Luminarch declared, energy crackling around their form. Then something incredible happened. Other warriors in the crowd stood up. Not all of them. But enough. They'd watched the footage from the tomb. They'd seen Jake solve puzzles that stumped the greatest fighters. They'd seen him face his fears when champions couldn't. They'd seen the truth, that maybe strength came in different forms. Emperor Thane realized he was losing control. What will you do, Janitor? Overthrow me? No, Jake said. He activated the cosmic key. Light exploded from it, but not destructive light. This was different. It was pure truth, washing over everyone in the arena like a wave. And truth has a way of revealing what people really are. The light showed Emperor Thane's deepest self, a frightened being who'd built walls of cruelty around his insecurity, who ruled through fear because he was terrified of being seen as weak. Every cruel order, every execution, every act of domination was just him trying to feel safe. It showed the Empire's warriors their pride and how it blinded them to other forms of strength. It showed every species in the arena the same fundamental truth. Underneath the scales, the energy, the strange bodies, they were all the same. All afraid. All struggling. All wanting to matter. And then the light spread beyond the arena, beyond the planet, reaching across the galaxy. At the edges of known space, the void plague stopped advancing. Then it began to recede, repelled by the key's power. The arena stayed silent for a long moment. The first ones left this key as a test, Jake said quietly. Not of strength, but of wisdom. You can keep pretending that power makes someone worthy, or you can accept that every person has value, human, alien, whatever. Judge people by their actions, not their species or their job. Emperor Thane's whole body sagged. Exposed. Humbled. He'd been defeated not by weapons but by truth. What do you want? He finally asked. Freedom for humanity. Full citizenship in the Empire. Equal rights. Judge us by what we do, not where we came from. The Emperor had no choice. Not anymore. Agreed. The arena erupted, some aliens angry, some celebrating, all shocked. The chains fell from human wrists. Lily ran to Jake and hugged him tight. You did it, Mr. Jake. Over the next hour, officials offered Jake everything. Command positions. Wealth. Titles. A seat on the Imperial Council. Jake turned it all down. I'll take one job, he said. Chief Engineer for Imperial Infrastructure. Someone needs to maintain the first one's technology properly. That's what I'm good at. 4 months later, Jake stood in the same arena, now converted into a training center. He taught both humans and aliens how to understand ancient systems, not through force, but through patience and care. Lily approached him during a break, older now, more confident. Mr. Jake? I've been thinking. I want to learn engineering. Like you. Jake smiled and handed her a toolkit, a real one, not a toy. Then let's start with the basics. See that panel over there? Let's figure out what it does. High above in his observation room, Emperor Thane watched. He'd learned something in his humiliation, something that changed how he saw the Empire. Humanity's real strength wasn't in matching other species' natural advantages. It was in their stubborn refusal to let circumstances define them. They adapted. They learned. They found dignity in every task. A janitor saved the Empire. And in doing so, he changed it forever.